Is John Tonje on the fringe of being the best player on this team? Badgers dominate Ep State. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Appreciate every single person that's going to watch this, tune in, chat about it, whatever. Thank you guys so much, as always. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet. You'll get $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's show, we're talking about the rotation, taking some of your questions, but I want to start with players to the game. And John Tonje, once again, he's been the best player on this team through three games. Through three games, which is not a huge sample set, and three teams that aren't the top level competition for sure. But he's my player of the game today. Led the team in minutes, 17 points, 8 of 14 from the field. But it's the other things. Like the thing with Tonje, if he can impact the game to this level when he shoots 1 for 5 from 3, the Badgers, what a steal in the portal. Because he shot 1 for 5 from 3 today, and he still felt like one of the best guys on the team because he's getting in the paint, he's finishing near the rim, mid-range shots, finishing in transition, playing strong defense. But it's 7 boards and 5 assists. If you're getting 7 boards and 5 assists from John Tonje with his ability to shoot the ball, I mean, I don't think he's the best player on this team. I still think that's Blackwell, but he's starting to climb that tier. And what a get by early sample size, early returns. What a get by Greg Gard. He looks great. He's exceeding my expectations for 3 games. I thought he would come in, and I really liked him. I've said it from the start. I thought he's going to come in. He's going to be a connector. He's going to create space. He's going to hit open shots and draw free throws and play tough defense. I didn't expect the rebounding. He's playing really, really hard. He's really getting after it. I didn't expect 5 assists. I didn't see that watching film. Great game, John Tonje. My other 2, I always try to do 3 players of the game. I got my top one. I think John Tonje's the guy. I want to give a shout out to Kamari McGee today. Kamari McGee, again, not a big statistical game, but it just flipped. The momentum of the game kind of flipped when he started to come in and started to get a run. Like once again, the Badgers get off to a slow start. We're going to hit on that. They got to figure that out. They were down 17-8. Kamari McGee comes in and he provides a little bit of structure, right? A really good job cutting off the post entry passes, playing good defense, getting a couple loose balls. Again, not a big statistical game, but I think Kamari McGee brings something that's a little hard to measure to this team. There's some intangible with his game that I think is impressive. And then Steven Crowl. This is the version of Steven Crowl where, I've talked about it a lot. I think this is the version of Steven Crowl that gets overlooked. People are going to look at the rebounds and say, got to get more rebounds. He boxes out and other people get boards. Now, would I like him to be a little more active? Yes, but 17 points on 7 of 12 from the field. This is where Steven Crowl gives you an edge. When you're playing a team that doesn't have a great post defender, it puts other teams in a bind because you're just going to feed them. I thought Greg Gard did a really good job in staff early on. There were some really nice sets to get him deep looks where he would kind of initiate the high pick and roll, cut across, they'd swing the ball and feed it to the low post to Steven Crowl. Really nice action there. But this is what Crowl gives you. If a team doesn't have a really good post defender, Crowl's going to eat him up because he's patient, and then teams either have to double him or they just have to live with Steven Crowl shooting 70, 65% from 3 feet from the bucket. And he just ate him up on the inside today. Also had 4 assists, a couple of those off really nice cuts from guards. Again, this is the good Steven Crowl. This doesn't always show up, and it typically doesn't show up when you have a more physical post presence that you're going up against. Really good game from Steven Crowl. Also shooting a couple threes, like being aggressive out there, looking for the shot. Those are my 3 guys of the game. You could easily talk about Nolan Winter also having a really, really nice performance. Starting to see the slashing ability, hit a 3, drove in, got an end one. I think there's still some defensive stuff when they're both on the court that makes it a little hard, but really good game from Winter, McGee, Tonje, and Crowl. Let's get a couple comments here. And again, this is small sample size. These are 3 teams that aren't particularly good, but the Badgers have played pretty well, working through a lot of new pieces. I think it was really important this year where they could kind of ease into the season. A lot of new pieces on this roster, and they're melding them in pretty well. And you got to be encouraged. You got to be encouraged by what they were able to do today. I think they went on a 20-something run in the first half. Again, they were down 17-8, but then they just the defense clamped up. They started getting better shots. App State didn't score for 3 or 4 minutes in that stretch. You got to be good with what you've seen so far. Will Hanna says hi. What's up, Will? Always a good friend of the show. Let's see what else we got here. JK says Janicki equals Gossard 2.0. I don't think he's going to get to that level. I think he's definitely going to carve out a role. And people got to stop looking at him as a walk-on. He was a guy that had D1 offers. I mean, lower level D1 offers, but he was a D1 type of guy that the Badgers got to walk on. Good score, good body, good energy. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to carve out a role. A couple more stats. So we talked about the players of the game. I want to hit one thing we got to see more of. We got to see more John Blackwell. John Blackwell, I don't know if it's been a little deferring. We talked a lot about what we expected to see from John Blackwell this year. He was 4-10 today, 0-2 from the three-point line. There's two things I want to hit on with John Blackwell. The first one is, again, small sample size. I believe in the skill set. I won't stress it. He's still so smooth, can still score from all three levels. My worry with Blackwell is last year, AJ Storr on this team, and the other team's best perimeter defender was always on AJ Storr. Other teams' perimeter defense was geared to stop AJ Storr. This year, it's going to be geared to stop John Blackwell. It's going to be geared towards kind of keeping him out of the paint. The other team's bounciest, longest, most athletic wing defender is going to be on John Blackwell. And I wonder if there's a bit of an adjustment going on where the defense is more pointed towards him, where he's more the tip of the offensive spear. Overall, I'm not worried with John Blackwell, but we need to start seeing a little bit more efficiency in the paint. We need to start seeing a little bit more of that secondary playmaking I thought that he would bring to the team this year, where he's driving in and finding maybe the hockey assist where he finds the guy that finds the guy. I don't think we've seen a lot of that. And I wonder if he's still kind of finding his footing as kind of the lead element. Still a couple plays in this game where he gets baseline, gets the other side, rips a reverse layup. Like, you can still see all the skill set there. But I kind of want to see a little bit more from him. Some team steps. I've talked about this before. This team is going to live and die at times with the three. They shot 8 of 28 today. Now, they did enough other things. They forced a ton of turnovers. Some of that's just App State got really loose with the ball. Credit the defense, right? Credit the defense for turning it up, but App State got really, really loose with the ball. Wisconsin outscores them 16-2 in the turnover margin. You're not going to get that most games. It felt like App State kind of the wheels fell off, and then they just started reverting to a little playground ball. They stopped trying to run structured offense. They were trying to get a little too cute with stuff. So a lot of turnovers there. But it's encouraging to see Wisconsin win a game where they shot under 30% from three. And a lot of that was Stephen Crowell in the paint. Winter played well. Again, John Tonja getting downhill. They also held App State to 29% from three. For the first time this year, they've really kind of held the team's perimeter defense, or perimeter offense, under wraps. That's a good sign for the Badgers. And then I mentioned 16-2 points off turnovers. Some of that's just App State, but you also have to give credit to the Wisconsin defense. One thing I would like to see a little bit more of, and this was a note I made it several times in the game, there were a lot of misses in the first half that contributed to that 17-8 App State run that are shots that Badgers need to hit. I'm not talking about open threes. I don't care if you miss open threes if they're good looks. Keep shooting them. I'm talking about misses at the rim where there was a play where Tonje got in and got a little cute. I thought he could just 2-foot jump stop finish. There was a play where Crowell tried to kind of wrap around underneath the rim. Just, again, be strong, power up. There's a play in transition where Max Klesman had a really nice steal, and then it was one-on-one in transition, and he tried a difficult kind of Euro step, flip it on the other side of the rim. Just 2-foot jump stop, man, or 2-foot, get the shoulder into him, get to the line. The Badgers got to be cleaner in situations like that, because we always talk about on this show with football, basketball is true as well. You're never as good as your best moments, and you're never as bad as your worst, right? There's things to clean up in this game that are going to hurt you when you're playing Arizona. Got to finish at the rim. You got to finish when you get down there. You can't go down 17-8, or like the previous game against Holy Cross. You can't go down 20-something to 6, right? You're not going to crawl back out. You're not going to climb back out of that hole against better teams. So got to start cleaner, finish at the rim. But aside from that, I thought this was a really good performance by the Badgers. All right, let's bang a couple comments in here. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Reaction show. Kyle Matry says, any chance we beat Zona? I think Zona beats us. I think they might beat us kind of. That we're going to be playing such a different level of athleticism. A couple of these teams, we really haven't played dynamic athletes yet. I'm curious how we're going to match up on the perimeter. Arizona, again, Arizona really is going to try to force some tempo. You have to play within yourself. You have to control the ball. I worry as we're still, I think, trying to kind of figure out our point guard rotation. I worry that we might have some careless turnovers. Against Arizona, those are going to absolutely kill you. So I don't think we beat Zona, but I am also encouraged by what we've seen through the first 3 games. I didn't think we beat Zona before the year. I don't think we do now, but I feel better about this team now after 3 games than I did before the year. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Jan Volk, Tanjay reverse layup highlight. Yeah, a little Dr. J action, right? Going underneath the rim. We're going to take a quick break here, come back, talk about the rotations. Are we solidified in this rotation? And what surprise player isn't in it, in my opinion? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, all right, we're going to take one quick break for our great friends of the show, and then we're going to jump back into this conversation. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our incredible friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is awesome. Right now, NFL fans, if you bet $5, you get $200 bonus bets back guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. FanDuel.com is incredible. The official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, the biggest sportsbook out there. They are amazing and awesome. And you know that feeling when you hit a home run bet, that 3-team parlay, that 4-team parlay, maybe it's a 5-teamer, and you're sealing the deal with Tyree Walker, reaching over the end zone as you're screaming in the stands, seeing the dollar signs raining from the sky. I mean, I don't know that feeling because I don't ever hit parlays, but I'm sure there's people out there that do. And if you're going to hit those parlays, head over to FanDuel.com to do it again. A $5 bet gets you $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Spice up your weekend. Do it responsibly as always, but it is the best platform. Parlays, teasers, future spreads. If you were betting on the Badgers, this is the place you have to do it. Again, do it responsibly, but spice up your weekend with the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. That's over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's jump back into this show. All right, let's begin with some of these comments. So I've been kind of starring some of these comments. Again, the live show is always a great opportunity to talk to the community, bring everybody together. Selgani said Klesman had a good game, 5 steals, 15 points, 4 assists. Yep, another really well-rounded game. Some of those, 5 steals is rare. You have, even against a team that was kind of loose with the ball, you got to celebrate if you get 5 steals. That's ridiculous. But also did a really good job of picking his moments. I want to bring up a point with Klesman, and I was seeing people in the chat talk about this. We were talking about it on the Discord. One of the things I wrote down in my notes watching this game is people are going to have to learn to live with the shots that don't feel like traditional Wisconsin shots. Klesman had one early in the game. He pulled up in transition. Someone in the Discord, and again, I'm not telling anyone to agree or disagree with me. We don't do that on this show. But someone in the Discord said, "Dude, you're not Jim, or you're not Fredette. You're not that guy. Don't take that shot." I'm telling you, if you're going to shoot a lot of threes, you want your players empowered to shoot. And they look confident, ready to shoot. I am so about that. And if it means you have a couple bad shots a game, I'm totally good with it. I'm telling you, it's going to pay off because your players are going to be locked in every time they touch the ball. The other part of it is it forces defenses to extend their zones, their man-to-man coverage principles, because they know we're ready to shoot. It's going to put teams in a bind. You have to be willing to shoot if you're going to be a shooting team. And I don't mind the occasional pull up in transition one-on-one. I mean, listen, one-on-one, I still want a layup at the rim in transition, but I don't mind the occasional pull-up in transition, secondary break. Take the 3 if it's there. If you missed it, you miss it. It doesn't stress me. I'm good with it. Also, Selgani, we need Blackwell off-ball. Tanjay and Klesman combined for 9 assists. I like them making decisions. So I don't hate this. And I talked before the year, one of my concerns with Blackwell was if you made him a point guard, if you made him more of a primary distributor, you're going to be taking a little bit away of what he does best, which I think is getting downhill and scoring. So I don't hate this. Again, I think it's reflective of the fact that there's not a natural true point guard on this roster. But I do think Blackwell off ball is better. The problem is I also think Tanjay off ball is better. And I also kind of like Klesman off ball. So I think you're kind of drawing straws there a little bit. But yeah, I'm not against it if it unlocks Blackwell. I think I mostly agree with you there. Will Hanna, how many rebounds did 13 years Steve Crowley, 13-year man? He's just a grad student. No problem with his offense today. Yeah, like if you remember, and I don't blame anybody if they don't, but about a year and a half ago, I did a show in the offseason. I think it was with Kedrick Stumbris, who was really sharp. But it might have been with Dylan Graff, I forget. But we were talking about big man rebounding rates and how traditionally the big man on this roster don't always rebound at the highest clip because they're boxing out more and other guys are getting the glass. I'm not trying to make excuses for Crowell, but he's never been a big time rebounder. He's more of a positional rebounder. And we won the battle on the glass today. I think this was a good Stephen Crowell day. TJ 24, can McGee start now? Again, I keep seeing this. I don't think you need to start him. As long as he's playing starterish minutes, I'm always of the proponent. I'm always of the proponent of I don't really care about the starting lineup much. I care about who plays. Like if McGee is getting starterish minutes, I don't care if it's coming in off the bench providing a spark. or I don't really care if he's starting either. Now, I think you can make an argument that if the slow starts continue, maybe there's an element of starting Kamari McGee that helps alleviate some of that. But the caution I would have is if you're tying team success to Kamari McGee being part of the mechanics of the offense, if you're tying success into that, well, then you might be prone to a slump when he goes to the bench after starting, right? In other words, the team can't only be successful when Kamari McGee's out there. And against better opponents, they're going to have to manufacture offense without him. I think the starting part of it is a little overrated. As long as he's getting minutes, I kind of like him coming in as a spark plug off the bench. And I still think your best five is a combination of Klesmit, Blackwell, Tanjay, and then your 4 and 5. So I don't mind starting with what I think is still your best lineup. But I get it. I could definitely be talked into McGee starting, and I can see the point there. JK, unselfish play, store is addition through subtraction. I mean, I don't want to say that for sure. Like, there's definitely moments where it would be nice to have a hyper-athletic wing, but man, this team is moving the ball a little better, and defensively they look more locked in. There's things that get better when you remove a guy who is uniquely individually talented but isn't a great fit in the overall team ecosystem. And I think that's some of AJ Store. I think this team is, to me, it's more fun to watch. Not even close through a couple games. More fun to watch. I like the spacing. I like the shooting. I don't really miss AJ Store. I don't. And it's not a knock on the kid. I think this team is more enjoyable to watch. Keep going here. G5098. I guess the first 5097 Gs were taken. I think Blackwell's been severely overrated since the beginning of the season. He is maybe second or third best. I don't know. I do think let's not fall. You could be right. Again, we don't tell people everything on the show, but I think you might be falling victim to short sample size a little bit. What Blackwell showed last year was some elite secondary metrics. He led the team in free throw attempts per 40, had really good rebounding numbers, really good kind of secondary numbers, great shooting numbers. And then everything I've heard in the offseason was like the next step has been unlocked for him. So I'm not going to let 3 games completely wash that out. I still think he's the best player on this team, in other words. And with the practice I was able to see, he was the best player on the court that day as well. So I'm not going to let those 3 games kind of take away what an entire offseason and what an entire year of data points last year points me towards. But he does have to get better, 100%. All right. I want to talk rotation quick because that kind of leads us into some rotation talk. The entire offseason, we were talking about what does this rotation look like? I think this team is deeper. I apologize if you hear my kids upstairs. They just got home. We talked about this entire rotation's deeper. I think right now we have a 7 that's locked in, right? So the 7 that's locked in is your 5 starters, McGee and Gilmore. There's your magnificent 7. That's your 7. 8 and 9-ish, you're getting into Amos and what's a 9th? Hold on, I misspelled one of these. So 8 and 9, you're kind of getting into the Amos range, Janicki range, Ilver range. So I think you're comfortably around 8 right now. And that's not bad. That's a really solid rotation. And there's some pieces behind there that with Hunter, Freitag, Ilver, Janicki that can fill in depending on matchups, right? If you play, maybe a team with a little more size and athleticism in the front court, maybe Amos gets a few more minutes. If you're playing a team that you got to shoot a little bit more, maybe Janicki gets a few more minutes. He's a good passer, by the way. Like there's a future there. So I think it gives you flexibility, but I think we do now know like this is the 7. It's the starters plus McGee and Gilmore. And then you're going to mix and match with Amos. You're going to mix and match with some other pieces coming off the bench. I think Amos needs to continue coming along because this team is going to need his athleticism in the front court going forward. JK says I was pretty pessimistic coming into the season, but now I have some hope for this team. Yeah, again, everything matters. Every data point matters. Don't ignore 3 games because they're against bad competition. Also, don't overrate them. Where that sweet spot is the ever difficult question, the other difficult needle to thread. But yeah, I would feel better about this team after 3 games. It looks like the players are playing free. It looks like they bought into the system. Defensively today, they locked. Man, I know App State was getting loose with the ball. Some of that was because Wisconsin rattled them. Wisconsin, first of all, the pick and roll defense was exemplary after like the first 5 minutes of the game. I don't know if you noticed, Greg Gard was hedging a lot, which means you're not letting that ball handler come off the pick and roll clean. You're bringing that big out to kind of give him some difficulty and then getting back. I thought that was a great adjustment. Perimeter defense was better. I thought there were guys flying around helping. There was a couple of instances where John Blackwell did a great job helping and recovering to his guy. Kamari McGee was getting over picks really well. This was a really good defensive effort. And if they play with that type of energy, they're not always going to be the most talented athletic team, but they can play with that type of energy defensively where they're really connected and they're moving on the pass. They're not moving on the catch, which is what I saw today. This team is going to be in a lot of games with the way they can shoot with that type of defensive energy. So I was encouraged by that. All right, we're going to come back. Bunch more of your questions, kind of big picture thoughts on this team as well after 3 games. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show over at our good friend at Gametime. Listen, I've talked about Gametime a lot. Gametime, I have used it personally. Like I'm super comfortable telling you I've used it personally. It's been great for me. I've recommended it to people who've used it personally. Somebody who listens to the show reached out and they got tickets on the show through Gametime. I know somebody on the show reached out and they said they got tickets to go to an NBA game through Gametime. A good buddy of mine used it to get baseball tickets. Gametime is incredible. Whatever you want. Listen, do more stuff in life. Like, let's all do more stuff in life. And Gametime is your ticket to getting more stuff into your life, whether it's concerts, sporting events, theater, Broadway, whatever it is. Let's do it together. Hit me up. Let's Gametime to something together, and let's go knock it out of the park with Gametime. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Snake the tickets without stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Let's keep talking here. Again, Badgers was an impressive win against a team that was overwhelmed, but they absolutely did to them what you should do to a team that's overwhelmed. A couple more comments in here. Willian, it's only 3 games, but we already talked about this one. But he also points out he doesn't think Blackwell's the best player in this team as of now, of course. That's fair. I don't think he's played up to his potential. I think that's fair. Excuse me. A couple more comments in here. We've had a bunch of comments on Frite, and the reality is, when you saw him out there, you could see that he's still moving a little too quickly for the game. Some players, the pace of the game moves too quickly for them. I think Frite is moving too quickly for the pace of the game. Like, he still looks like a freshman in a 4-star body. So it is what it is, right? It's going to take some patience. I think throughout the year, he's going to keep taking jumps. And it wouldn't surprise me if later in the year, as it goes on, like he starts to carve out a role that athletic guy off the bench. It's just not there right now. Will's killing me, man. Easton Parks, decent Amos game. Yeah, Amos is a really important part to this team because he does give you something that you don't have anywhere else, which is that really athletic 4 who you trust to really spread the court, to be able to switch on to 3, 4s, and 5s, to be able to provide some secondary rim protection. There was a reason when he signed, we thought that was the crown jewel of the transfer portal class, right? We liked Hunter, loved the story, thought he could come in and provide guard minutes. I thought Tanjay would be a great connector. Amos was the prize there. He was the guy that was going to come in, really provide athleticism and shooting into that front court. They still need him to come along because that is going to be desperately needed as the Big Ten season goes along. Jan Vogt, Blackwell will draw the best defender on the other team. That's it. Which, like, that's a burden, right? And you might see some adjustments from Blackwell as he's trying to deal with that. And it's not just the best defender, as Jan rightfully points out. It's also game plans. Like, teams will start to game plan for Blackwell, whereas last year that game plan was more geared towards Chucky. It was more geared towards Wall. It was definitely more geared towards Store, right? Blackwell's going to inherit a lot of that, and that's a big responsibility, which is going back to a previous point, why it might make more sense to have Klesmit and Tanjay handle more of the ball handling, distribution, and just let Blackwell go hunt. Like, go get in the paint, draw fouls, go score. And I don't know. We'll see as it goes on how they kind of adjust to that. Jay, good to see Amos get more run in the second half. Still a lot to clean up, but hopefully continues to grow. Yep, I agree. TJ, we saw Greppy, right? We saw the import. Greppy had 3 rebounds. The thing with Greppy, and he's been on the show, really, really like him, knows 5 languages, which is absolutely amazing to me. It's incredible. I mean, I barely speak 1. And, the thing with him, he's raw. Offensively, he has a long, long ways to go. But he's legit. He has legit size. And sometimes it's hard to find guys with legit size. So I think that's something to build on. I'm glad he was able to get some minutes. I'm glad Frite was able to get in there. Robeson hit a 3 at the end, right? The freshman. That's going to be – you're going to see that many, many more times in the future. That guy has a clean lefty stroke. I like his upside a lot. Easton Parks, I'm liking Winter more and more each game. He just needs to be aggressive, right? That play in the first half where Winter catches it on the right wing, puts the ball down, gets to the rim, and finishes, he just needs to continue to be aggressive because he is really, really talented. Really, really talented. A little bigger now, I would like to see them run more to get him involved in the game. But yeah, I thought he played really well as well. All right, we're going to wrap it up there, guys. The Badgers are 3-0. I like this team. I like this team. They're shooting well. They're moving the ball defensively. They're playing hard. They're playing with more energy and effort than you saw at times last year. I thought the pick and roll defense got better. Greg Gard is making some adjustments there. And be excited about John Tonje. I mean, it's possible that's one of the better portal pickups in college basketball. And if he continues to do those secondary things with the rebounds and the assists with his ability to shoot, that's a borderline Big Ten star. And I'm not afraid to go out there and say it. Like, if you're scoring 17 with 7 boards, and 5 assists, that's an all-around dude. So, yeah, be excited about Tonje. Tougher competition to come for sure, but also don't ignore what you've seen through 3 games. Locked On Badgers, really do appreciate every single person tuning into the show. We got one from G6 here. I wish Gard had a different mentality with how he uses his bench. Why not let some of our newer players get some time to gel? I don't know. So I can understand wanting to get some of those pieces in earlier and a little more, but you got to play your rotation and you got to earn those minutes in practice. Now, I'm not in practice, but you earn playing time in practice. So if Ames and Hunter and Freitag need more playing time, then they got to earn more playing time in practice. And they're already playing 7-8 guys. You're not going to get much deeper than that. You're just not. So I do think there's times, and this is not a Gard thing, I think at times coaches can get some of their secondary pieces in the game a little bit earlier, right? To A, avoid injury to your starters when the game's out of line, and to B, get your younger players more reps. But Gard's got a 7, 8, 9-ish man rotation in place. You're not going to play many more than that. So I respect that. And this is a deep team. And listen, injuries are going to happen. A lot's going to change over the course of the year. I'm not going to be shocked if Ames starts earning more and more minutes. I think Freitag could eventually carve out a role this year. So I think some of that can still happen. Cameron Hunter might be another guy you're talking about. He's been limited with injury. We saw him get in at the very end today, so maybe that's starting to come around as well. But on a deep team, again, in college, you're just not going to go 9, 10 deep. So there's got to be a point where you cut it off. And those other guys are going to have to grind in practice and earn those minutes. It is what it is. We're going to wrap it there. On Wisconsin, go check out Locked On Big Ten when you're done here. All the biggest news in the conference over at the Locked On Big Ten channel. Thank you guys and gals so much as always. Appreciate you on Wisconsin, and we will talk later.